Hello and welcome to this video here. It's a pleasure for me to see you again and what we are talking about today. So today we are talking about the definitions of private cloud, public cloud, but as well about hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. So I saw that these definitions or these terms are often used a little bit in different ways, but if you're talking about security concepts, if you're talking about scalability and resilience, then it's good to know what is the exact difference between hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, and public and private cloud and all this stuff, so that you can combine this one. And if this is interesting for you, then you're right here. By the way, my name is Sven. I'm from Germany, and as you can see, I'm mostly in the woods here, and it's a perfect weather for being outside alone, hiking a little bit and just enjoying the nature here. So we'll take you to two journeys. One journey is here to this environment, so that you can see a little bit where I'm hiking, and the other thing is to this hybrid cloud, multi-cloud and stuff around this. So if you're new on my channel, a big welcome from my side. It's a pleasure for me to see you here. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and it would be a pleasure for me to have you as my new subscriber. And so I don't want to lose more time. Let's start. Okay, now we are talking about private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, whatever cloud, and I assume that we will get a bunch of different cloud definitions in the future as well. But there's one common thing, this cloud. What does it mean if we are talking about a cloud? So cloud means that you have some kind of abstraction layer, and you can abstract components, operating systems, services, APIs. So we will see that you have different abstraction layers, how abstract this cloud is, but the main thing is that you have a bunch of CPUs, graphic cards, or hardware instance, whatever, and you never see the physical one, you just see a logical unit of this one. And sometimes you not even see if it is running on one or on multiple hardware instances, because even this is abstracted from you. But the main thing is all these abstraction layers are accessible over network. So you never have a physical connection, you have just connection over a network, and then you don't know how this implementation is done on the other side. So it's really abstracted over an API, over different connections like like a database, a storage, and CPU unit, and virtual computer unit, whatever. So you have different abstraction layers. We will see it a little bit in a few minutes, but the main thing is cloud means you have an abstraction layer, you have no clue about what's inside, what technology is used inside. Mostly even this is abstracted, so what kind of hardware or what dedicated operating system or whatever, but you can just access it. Over this you have mostly some kind of management environment. So this cloud, there's a bunch of units that are working together as one single thing. You have a management environment on top of it, and based on the kind of cloud, you don't know where it is, where's your geographic position, are you using it alone or with others together, and so on and so on. And then we start talking about different definitions of cloud. But never mind, access over the network, and you have no clue about what's inside. You're just using this kind of service depending on your abstraction layer. Okay, the first thing I want to explain a little bit is the term public cloud. So public cloud in general means that everybody is able to access the service, and in general you have no idea if the service is located in US, in Europe, in Asia, or somewhere, and you have no idea who else is using the service. It could be a storage, it could be a database, it could be a CPU unit, whatever. So public means that the service that is mostly offered by these big companies, so the global players, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and whatever, and they have dedicated places where they are hosting all this hardware, and then everybody else can be there. So it means that you have your logical unit, and you are the customer with a customer number ABC, and on the same hardware or on the same CPU or on the same storage or whatever, you have maybe your competitor or your whatever, some other companies that are using the same resource. So the weak point would be here if information is bleeding between the different customer accounts. And this is one of the things. And there is one thing that is still a public cloud, but with a regional restriction. So, for example, inside the European Union, we have this data protection law, and this forces these big vendors, for example, to give the possibility to say, I want to use this service in your cloud, but it must be located physically in Germany or inside Ireland or whatever, some European country, so that you have there this European law. And but still we are talking about a public cloud, because we know there is this geo-reference, or this country where I'm selecting things, but I have no clue if in my German data center maybe a customer from Singapore is as well nearby, and if we are sharing the same CPU. So public really means there is a service, even if it's dedicated to a country or to a place, that everybody can access. Okay, the next thing I want to discuss or want to explain is the term private cloud. So public cloud, we saw that everybody has access to it, so everybody can just ask and pay for the service and can use it. And a private cloud is exactly the opposite. So you have a defined amount of persons, entities, units, whatever you want to say. And the big change here is that you're not running on some hardware that is shared between different customers. You have no control over. No, you have explicit dedicated hardware. It could be just for your customer. So one customer is using one hardware area and nobody else. So you try to minimize the security risk, like you're breaking out of your virtualization and can read the whole memory, and then you're reading from other customers some data or whatever. This couldn't happen, because then you have explicit just your hardware. If you're storing on your storage system, then you can destroy this hard disk, because you want to make sure that nobody else is able to read it out. So in a data center, you have to trust the service in a data center that's public. So here it's a private one, but it is still a cloud. So it's the same abstraction layer, so that we are accessing this stuff over the network in the same way you are doing it with a public cloud. But it could be hardware that you're managing completely by yourself. So you have your own data center where you have your own servers, but you have a cloud software on top, so this management style and this access. Or you have from a vendor like Amazon or Google or whatever, dedicated hardware that's just allocated for you, so that you are accessing this cloud service but exclusive on your own reserved hardware. And this is a main difference between public cloud and private cloud. So you have the same feeling, you have the same mechanism, you have the same possibility to scale, but you are on exclusive hardware. It could be self-managed, could be managed by somewhere. So private cloud could be a managed private cloud, it could be a self-hosted private cloud, but it's exclusive for you. Now let's talk a little bit about the difference, pros and cons of public cloud and private cloud. And the first thing I want to mention is the initial cost, this initial barrier of using something against the total cost of ownership. So here we have 2 points we should look at. First of all, the public cloud mostly is cheaper in the beginning, because you have very low entry. You're just using a few tiny units, and this is mostly way cheaper compared to allocating dedicated hardware for your stuff, maintaining, ramping up the whole infrastructure, and so on. So but on the other side, if you're looking on how much resources you really need, then over the time, if you're in a public cloud, mostly it's in a way that if you're using the double amount of storage, then you're paying the double amount. If you're using the double amount of CPU cycles, then you're paying the double amount. And on the private cloud, it could be a little bit less stressful. So in a way that you have this initial cost of allocating hardware and reserving hardware, but then over a longer time you can use it, and sometimes, or at some point, maintaining this private cloud is cheaper compared to scaling in public clouds. So it really depends on what contract you have and utilization and your business in general, if this is worse to have this linear scaled amount of money you have to pay versus some own maintained private cloud and so 1,000 factors, but in general you can say in the beginning public cloud is cheaper because you have very low entry, financial entry, and the private cloud has a higher financial barrier, but then you have the full control over it, and you can play a little bit more around with resources and the usage. And in the public cloud, it's just if you're using the double amount, then you're mostly paying the double amount. The next thing I want to discuss is the flexibility of resources. Say, inside a public cloud, mostly you have a way bigger flexibility of allocating resources because you have a huge pool you can allocate, and then you can just add hundreds, sometimes thousands of servers in a day because you're just allocating in a huge amount of already installed servers. So scalability in the public cloud is mostly way easier and faster. On a private cloud, you can allocate until you're reaching your limit, and mostly this limit of a private cloud is way lower than compared to a public cloud. And this means the flexibility inside your barriers of your private cloud is the same. You're just allocating the double amount of servers, okay, if you have them already. If you're reaching this limit, then you have a border that you really have to do something. You have to buy new hardware, you have to install new stuff, and so on. So flexibility in terms of scaling inside the public cloud is way easier and more flexible, and you can scale in bigger terms or in bigger numbers compared to private clouds. Okay, let's talk a little bit about data protection, data security, or security in general in this environment. So the main thing is, if you're in a public cloud, you have maybe a contract, you're dealing with one of these huge providers, and then you have just to trust. So you are not responsible for ensuring, for example, that this data center is secure, nobody can enter, and so on. But on the other side, you can't control it. You have no way to check it. You can just trust them, and you can sign some contracts. And if something is happening, you need enough money to do something against it. But this is in a public cloud. In a private cloud, you have all this stuff in your own hands. So you know exactly where this hardware is. If it is managed by yourself, so really in your own data center, you can really decide what kind of security you need for especially explicit this area. So if you need a double amount of whatever around, who's able to enter, and so on and so on. And if a hard disk will be decommissioned, then how you're destroying this stuff. In a public cloud, you have no control. If a hardware is defect, you're not even seeing it. So this hard disk will be used somewhere, destroyed, maybe erased somewhere. And so there's a big difference between public cloud and private cloud. So in a public cloud, you have to trust someone. On the other side, you're giving away this responsibility. So someone else is responsible, and you trust that they're doing a good job. You can't really control it. On the other side, if you're in a private cloud, you have all the responsibilities by yourself. So you need to ensure that this is exactly in a way. And then you need the knowledge, you need the possibilities, the humans that are doing it, the machines, the environment, and so on. So this is a trade-off. You have to decide which one is more important for you, and what, in the end, what you can pay for. So sometimes a public... Okay, so now talking about the flexibility and the customizing possibilities inside a private and public cloud. So in a public cloud, you have this pre-configured things you can choose, and then it's more or less what you can have. So in a private cloud, you can customize everything from the CPU type of the network or the software. Everything. You can control everything in a private cloud. If it is a managed one or a completely self-hosted one, doesn't care. So it doesn't matter. So it's more or less in a private cloud, you have all the possibilities. In a private cloud, mostly if you want to have it more customized, it's way more expensive. For sure, the public cloud, they want to have everything in the same way. Then they can scale and they can exchange this configuration between all these customers. So it's their business to have everything in the same way. On the other side, if you have on a public cloud the possibility to have some kind of service or some kind of configuration, it is running. If you want to have the same in your private cloud, you need you need your developers or your DevOps people that are able to do this. So you need the knowledge about exactly these features you want to have. And this means The flexibility in a private cloud is without borders, so you can do everything what you want. But on the other side, you have the responsibility, and you need the know-how, and you need the money to do this. And on the public side, you have just a pre-configured set of possibilities. Choose and mostly try to find something that fits to your need, and then you're done. So customizing in a public cloud is not so easy. So these are the biggest difference between private cloud and public cloud, but we have some other terms already mentioned, and this is what I'm explaining next. Okay, now we are talking about a hybrid cloud. What's a hybrid cloud? So we saw a private cloud, a public cloud, and this you can have with different variations, but in general, a hybrid cloud is now a composition of services that are partially in a private cloud and partially in public cloud. So it means you have, for example, the storage in the private cloud, but the CPU units in public cloud. You have service A in public cloud number 1 and service B in public cloud number 2. So you are composing now the whole thing you want to realize in different clouds, and this means that you decide for every service where it should be, inside a private or public cloud, who's the vendor, and so on and so on. So altogether give you the flexibility or the possibility to use the pros and cons of both clouds, the private and the public cloud, based on your needs for a dedicated part of your whole ecosystem. So the whole environment will be split up, and then you're deciding. It's important to know that you have to deal now with security, data protection, and resilience and all this stuff by yourself, and you have to make sure that this is working smoothly together, because you have here some requirements, there some requirements, and sometimes not so easy to have some services on Google running with some services on Amazon, because they are, every big vendor want to have it in a way that you're mostly stuck on their platform, on their environment, that's their business or what they try to do. But in general, you have the freedom to choose between different vendors, and you can decide by yourself. If you're completely on-prem, a hybrid cloud is mostly a transition strategy to scale slowly or transform slowly into a public cloud, if your target is, for example, really completely being in a public cloud. But sometimes you decide, okay, maybe I need the composition between a private and a public cloud, because based on needs and regulations and requirements and all this stuff. So a hybrid cloud is a composition of different clouds, of different public and private clouds, and every service is storage here, CPU there, and so on and so on. Okay, now we are talking about the term multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is a cloud of clouds. So in terms of hybrid cloud, we just decide storage is here and CPU is there. But a multi-cloud means that storage is not only in this cloud, storage is now in 2 different clouds. So a multi-cloud is a cloud of a cloud, and this means you need some management software that is abstracting the different needs of different clouds. You want to have more resilience with this multi-cloud environment for a dedicated service. So you're not only sharing one service here and one service there. This service itself is split on different clouds. So the term multi-cloud is completely different to the term hybrid cloud. So a multi-cloud is a hybrid cloud as well, but a multi-cloud is with a specific term that one service is even split on multiple clouds, and you need the aggregation so that for you, this cloud looks like one cloud. You want to increase flexibility, scalability over the globe, different resilience pattern, and so on. So it means you have storage on Amazon and storage on Microsoft, and for you it looks like one cloud, and then the software itself is balancing between, and if some service is not available, and then later it's replicating all this stuff. So multi-cloud is a dedicated term, and it's important to know and to check that you are not using the term hybrid cloud and multi-cloud in the same way, because the strategy is not the same. And for multi-cloud, you need this software that is making a cloud of clouds. Okay, we heard a lot about private cloud, multi-cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, and all this stuff, and why I need it. I need this one because I need to know how, what strategy I can use if I'm transitioning from on-prem to cloud, if I want to have more resilience, if I want to have more flexibility, and so on and so on. And for example, we at JFrog, we're using this exactly for our DevOps platform. So you can have this DevOps platform on-prem, you can have it in the cloud as a software as a service solution, but you can have it in hybrid solutions as well as on multi-cloud environments. For example, you have storage is in a multi-cloud, and then you're aggregating this for your binary storage like Artifactory, or you're using it for your pipeline CI environment, and so on and so on. So, but I will create a bunch of more security related topics around this DevOps and cybersecurity area, because I'm now closely working together with the security research team in our company here in JFrog, and I'm just creating a bunch of new tutorials. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up please, and subscribe my channel. If you want to know more about these topics like cybersecurity that's coming on and based on this video, then turn the bell on so that you're not missing one of my videos. So it was a pleasure for me to see you here. I will pack my stuff now, will hike a little bit, I think it's this direction, 1 or 2 hours, to back to my car. And yeah, whatever time it's on your side you're watching this, have a good rest of your day, and it was a pleasure to see you here again. And the only thing I can say is stay safe and see you.